Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new Hangout right here on Night Owl Video. Thank you so much for your patience. Last week I just wasn't feeling it. That's the way it goes. If you're new here, this is the Hangout, which I do generally every week. Every once in a while I miss it either from sickness or I just need a break. But yeah, it's the Hangout. I talk about music I listened to this past week, movies I watched, physical media pickups, and I also give you a heads up on what new releases are coming out on physical media, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K. So if you like that kind of thing, stick around. I always encourage you to get a warm beverage, cold beverage, no beverage, snacks, no snacks, whatever you're feeling, just feel it, baby. But today, of course, I've been away for 2 weeks now, so I've got a few things to show you. I did make a trip to the city last week, and I picked up a few things. I was able to complete another one of my TV series that I was looking for one missing season, or two, I guess. And I also picked up a movie in a horror movie franchise that I only had on VHS and was really wanting a digital DVD. So without further ado, it is March the 20th. We still have another 11 days left in the month. So there's two more new release days for physical media. This coming Tuesday, which is March 24th, and then I believe the 31st is the next one. And then we will be into April, and hopefully we will be into some sunshine and green grass and birds chirping and all that good stuff. And for me, getting on my damn bicycle, because I'm going stir crazy in my little apartment, which is soon not going to be my apartment, but that's for another day. Starting off, first up, let's go with the movies first. So the movies I watched on physical media this past week. So the first one I rewatched, I guess these are all rewatches actually, but I rewatched Alien Romulus from 2024, I want to say. Directed by Fede Alvarez, and starring Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson. This is a 2-hour-long movie rated 14 in Canada. It's another movie in the Alien franchise. I don't know. I saw this in the theater. I absolutely loathed this movie in the theater. Like, I was sitting in the theater like this towards the end when they reveal the well, I don't want to spoil it, but it's growing on me, but it's a very slow grow. There's parts of this movie I really, really like, and there's parts of this movie where it's just completely grown city. I mean, the android saying, "Get away from her, you bitch," is just the stupidest line. Even, I was watching a review of this not long ago, and somebody was saying, isn't it funny how the android says, any of you out there who are, under 40, I don't know, I'm getting really old now, but anybody who grew up watching Aliens, I mean, Ripley, Sigourney Weaver's character, said, "Get away from her, you bitch." Sorry if that's a spoiler for you. The movie is 40 years old, though, so she says that to the Queen Alien, and it's this big epic line, and everybody was like, "Whoa, this is so kick-ass." And in this movie, for some reason, Fede Alvarez was like, I'm gonna do this. To me, it's fan disservice. He makes the android say, but he says, "Get away from her, you bitch." It's almost like he's saying it as a question. It's so frustrating. Like, it just, There's a couple of other things in there that are quite dumb, but I don't know. I like the lead actress. I like the tone, but I don't know. It's I don't know what to say anymore. On a lighter note and on a much more excellent note, I rewatched Shaun of the Dead, directed by what's his name? Edgar Wright, who did the Cornetto trilogy, which is this Hot Fuzz and End of the World, I think it's called. I really only stick with this one and Hot Fuzz for the most part. I have seen The End of the World or whatever it's called a few times. It's okay, but this to me is the king of the Cornetto trilogy. Um, it still holds up today. What is it, like 22 years later? Hilarious send up of the Romero zombie movies. It's just fantastic. If you've never seen Shaun of the Dead, but you like horror comedies, or even if you just like horror movies but you want a little something different, highly recommend this. It's just a, not to sound cliche, but it's a stone cold classic. Even George Romero said an absolute blast. So yeah, can't beat it. So many funny parts in this. You've got Red on You. There's a girl in the backyard. There's a zombie in the backyard. There's a girl in the backyard, and they go out and they're like, "Hello, honey," you know, and she's a zombie, but they're like, and then she tries to attack Sean, and his friend's like, "Oh, I think she likes you." Oh, it's so funny, so excellent, and I rewatch this every couple of years just for shits and giggles. Another one of my comfort movies, Disney's The Black Hole from 1980, 79, I think. I think it's from 79, if I'm not mistaken. This was Disney's attempt at being a little more, I guess, making more like mature movies for like tweens or teenagers. This hot on the heels of like Star Wars and Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and actually, on the inside, there's a thing that says, add these film favorites to your collection today. And if you'll notice, one that I recently picked up and watched, Watcher in the Woods. And that was another one of those ones where it was like, you know, you had Tron and you had Something Wicked This Way Comes. And so this was Disney trying to like keep up with the sci-fi trend of the late 70s, early 80s. And it's, you know, it's got its flaws. It's obviously... It's not as excellent as the original Star Wars, but I would say it's a darn good science fiction movie for its time. This was directed by Gary Nelson. It stars Robert Forster, who you may know from Jackie Brown, Joseph Bottoms, Yvette Mimieux, Ernest Borgnine, Anthony Perkins, Maximilian Schell, and it's just excellent. I think the I forget who does the voice of the robot. I think it's no, not Anthony Perkins. I think it's Roddy McDowall, if I'm not mistaken. Although his name's not in the credits. But yeah, it's a weird one, right? It's not like it's just like this spaceship that's on the edge of a black hole, being piloted by Maximilian Schell and this other crew with Robert Forster and Anthony Perkins. They show up. And then they go aboard this what they think is a derelict ship. It's a really spooky looking ship too. It's all lit up, hovering over this black hole, and it's kind of creepy actually, to be honest. There's a funeral in it with like robots. It's really creepy. But yeah, this was Disney trying to branch out and be a little more mature. I'm sure I've talked about this movie on my channel before. It's usually a yearly watch for me. It's just a comfort movie. It's like Star Wars or Raiders of the Lost Ark or, you know, things like that. The biggest thing I committed to this past week, which some of you are probably going to roll your eyes, but I watched all 8 of the Paramount Pictures Friday the 13th films. So we have Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D, Friday the 13th The Final Chapter, which is definitely my favorite, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, which is definitely my least favorite, Friday the 13th 6, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th 7, The New Blood, and last night I watched Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, aka Jason Takes Vancouver. And yeah, this is, again, it's just like a comfort thing. I know it's a weird thing to make a slasher movie a comfort movie, but around this time of year, you know, it gets closer to the warm weather. I getting excited for the summer, and these movies just give me that summer vibe. Maybe it's just like I'm trying to psych myself up. You know, it's like summer's on its way. But this this set is just one of these thin case sets. A lot of horror movie fans complained they wanted a great big box set, but for me, actually, I kind of prefer this because I don't have a lot of room to store and or display stuff. So this works perfectly fine for me. It's in high definition. It looks great. Although I will say some of the movies don't look super great. I know part 3 looks kind of bad because of the 3D technology back in the day, but some of them look great, especially the last few. I guess maybe they were bigger budget or something. They do look quite good, and I know they're not. They get, to me, my personal opinion, and this is just my opinion. Don't spaz out in the comments, but I think they get worse as they go on. I mean, part 5 is just part 5 is almost unwatchable for me. It's not Jason in it. It's just the characters are so bad. You got 80s girl and you got psycho leather boy with the axe, and you got it's just really bad. In fact, like when I put 5 on, I sort of like do other stuff around the apartment, tidy up or whatever, and I just like I'll just wait for part 6. And then the only thing I listened to this week that I had previously owned was an album I had never listened to, and that's the Dictators' "Go Girl Crazy," put out on Epic Records. I don't know what year this is originally from, but this says 2002, so I assume it's a reissue, reprint, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, 1975. And Dictators are a band that I knew about but didn't really ever listen to be honest. I think what we need is the handsomest man in rock and roll. I'm gonna just be transparent here. I don't really know a lot about this band. I know a lot of older punks like this band a lot, and I feel like they're like infamous, but I don't know why. Yeah, this was recorded at the record plant in New York in 75, I guess, 74, 75. It's I didn't know anything about this album prior to this. I bought this at a Value Village a couple months ago, and with the intention that I would probably just sell it or give it to one of my punk friends. But I listened to it and I kind of like it, and it's reminds me a lot of like not as gnarly as the Stooges, but kind of, you know, in that, you know, Stooges, MC5, Ramones, that kind of era of punk, like early punk. That's right, kids. The Sex Pistols didn't invent punk rock. But yeah, I really liked it. The one song I knew was "I Live for Cars and Girls," and I believe I have that on one of those like best of the 70s new wave songs or something. I don't know. This has, I guess, some questionable songs on it, but I won't get too far into that. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. I might just rip it to my computer and move it along, but it was a fun listen. I'm kind of curious to listen to more Dictators and see if I like more of their stuff. So now we get on to the what I picked up and also what I listened. We're going to move into what I picked up and I also listened to, except for one. So this week's total car stereo obsession has been the Jam Greatest Hits. I know this is going to sound like blasphemy, but I actually didn't have any Jam in my CD collection, so I saw this at Taz Records and I had to grab it. In the city, all around the world, the modern world, news of the world, David Watts, down in the tube station at midnight. I definitely prefer the early stuff. As they went on, they got a little more like funky or something. I don't know, but the early stuff is like that real raw, like mod rock, and I really love it. I'd like to find, like, I haven't done any homework to see what the like this kind of gives you an overview of their career, but I guess In the City and This Is the Modern Life, all mod cons. It says other albums available. So yeah, I don't know, but this I think this is a good jumping off point. The debut single was In the City, which was dedicated to London's punk scene of 1976, and it was released in April of 77. I was only 7 years old when that song came out. But yeah, I don't know, it's weird. Like I got thinking about this the other day, not to go on too much of a side tangent, but when I was around 16 or 17, I got a rock magazine, and inside the magazine was an article about mods. And I carried that magazine. I wish I still had it, but I carried that magazine around with me for years and years and years. And I used to reread that article and look at the pictures of the mods dressed up in their shirts and their ties and their trench coats, and they had their scooters, and I was always like romanticized that time. And of course, I had seen, when I saw Quadrophenia, I was like, that's it, I want to be a mod. But this was like 92 or something, so it's like, I know it's had a few revivals, but I knew, well, it's it probably exists in pockets in the world, but I'm not joining some crazy mod scene in my town in New Brunswick, Canada. But I was always obsessed with it. And back then we didn't have the internet, and it was hard to find cool records sometimes, or different kinds of records, and I just never found much in the way of that stuff. I had a couple Style Council vinyl records, but I was never really big on that. But when I heard the Jam, I was like, yeah, I like that. So that was a bit of a side tangent, but yeah, I always loved that. The British music and subcultures, in the 70s, I would say like late 60s into the 70s, even into the 80s, there was so many great scenes. The skinheads and the suede heads and the mods and the new wavers and the goths and like all, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of those scenes started there. It wasn't like, it was like just such a mecca for like all that great stuff. And the mods were, they dressed sharp. They had their scooters with all the crazy mirrors on them. They listened to the Who and the Jam and Small Faces and all this kinds of stuff. And I like some of that music. I mean, I love the Who, but yeah. So again, I would, listening to it in the car this week, even we had like sort of plus 3 or 4 days, I'd roll the windows down and just crank up the Jam, and it was great. I also picked up Black Flag, Slip It In from SST Records, going back to the year 1984. I never have owned this album. I had Damaged, and I had My War, and I had Who's Got the 10.5, but I never owned this one. So I've been on the lookout for this one, and I want to get Loose Nut, and yeah, I think there's a few others I'm missing, but I really like the early Black Flag. Of course, Raymond Pettibone's artwork on the cover, I think generally always quite controversial with his artwork. The fine print says, "Nobody knows more than I that the less girls know, the better they are likely to be." Let's see if there's a picture inside. Nope, the inside is just to terrorize you. Black Flag. But yeah, I listened to this morning. Like I said, I don't think I ever had this album. I think I had like maybe a copy on a cassette, but I never actually owned the album. This has Slip It In, Black Coffee, Rat's Eyes, which is a song I always loved, The Bars, You're Not Evil. Great album. And Greg Ginn, I know maybe a controversial pick, but one of my favorite guitar players. Not one of my favorite people, but one of my all-time favorite guitar heroes. So had to grab that. And then the last thing I grabbed for music at Taz Records, I got this, which I found in a bargain bin, 40% off. This is Hound Dog Taylor, Genuine House Rocking Music from it says 1982, but I think it's earlier than that. This is from Alligator Records. And for those of you who don't know, Hound Dog Taylor was a blues singer and guitarist, and my understanding is that he was born with 6 fingers on his chord hand. And somebody told me when I was younger that he got drunk, and in one of these drunken fits, he cut off his sixth finger. I don't know if that's true or not. I do know one thing, which I believe this is to be fact, and I will stand corrected if I'm wrong, but I think I read also that the other guitar player in the band, and his name's not listed here, but the other guitar player in the band tuned his guitar down a full octave below Hound Dog's guitar, and he would play like the bass notes on the guitar. And so this is like the muddiest of the muddy blues you could ever get. And he does a lot of slide work, and it's real gnarly, real raw sounding. And my friend Sam, back in high school, turned me on to Hound Dog Taylor, among other great blues music. But he played me Hound Dog Taylor, and as soon as I heard it, I was a huge Deja Voodoo fan and Cramps. And so when I heard this guy, I was like, oh, clearly this is the lineage of a lot of like sludgebilly and that type of sound. So yeah, this was a pickup from a couple of weeks ago, which I just didn't get around to, but I found this at Value Village. It's The History of Iron Maiden Part 1, The Early Days. And I don't know how common this is to find this out in the wild, but I've never seen it. It's got a little booklet inside with some photos and some notes. Oh, and you can order an Iron Maiden t-shirt. There's some cool images from like concert posters and stuff like that. So this is the early days. So this, my favorite Iron Maiden is like early to about, Power Slave. I did just pick up Somewhere in Time, which I like, but I was kind of more into that early phase, I guess. But this has Live at the Rainbow, 1981, Beast over Hammersmith, 1982, Live at Dortmund, 1983. And then disc 2 is the early days of 90-minute full-length documentary, 20th Century Box, 1981, rare TV documentary of the band, and Live at the Ruskin, rare home movie footage from the band's own archives. The extras include 5 promo videos, Women in Uniform, Run to the Hills, The Number of the Beast, The Trooper, and Flight of Icarus, and TV appearances, all adding up to 40 minutes. Extensive artwork, tour programs, listings, photo galleries, and a few hidden extras. So for $3.99, I couldn't resist grabbing that one. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Then, as I mentioned, I completed a TV series that I've had 3 out of the 5 seasons, but I was missing 2 seasons, and I finally did find season 2 and season 5 of The Incredible Hulk from the 1970s with Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby. And so, yeah, so I had 1, 3, and 4, and I was missing 2 and 5. So happy to add these to my collection. Here's a look inside the second season. Guys, when I was growing up, this was like one of my favorite shows, along with Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, Knight Rider a few years later, A-Team, but The Incredible Hulk was one of my favorites. I love this show so much. And yeah, I know it's cheesy for probably the younger folks, but for me, Lou Ferrigno's the Hulk. And then season 5 is actually just, it's just a 2-disc set. There's not many episodes in season 5, but look at that. I mean, tell me that's not cool. Bill Bixby was an excellent actor. Rest in peace. I always say to people when I'm talking to them about the Hulk, I'm like, Bill Bixby was like a talented actor, and probably, I mean, he for me, he made the Hulk. I mean, yeah, Lou Ferrigno's so killer, but Bill Bixby was such a great actor back in those days, and I think he really cemented for me like how good that show was, because his acting, his dramatic acting, and even like the transformation into the Hulk when his eyeballs, would have the green contacts in, and he'd be like, just really intense. As a 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, I was like, oh man, doesn't get any better than this. And bear in mind, back then, we had like the Japanese Spider-Man live action, and we had like Buck Rogers, and Battlestar Galactica, which were like sort of building momentum off the Star Wars movies, but we really didn't have a lot in the way of superheroes. I think there was a Captain America live action, but I can't remember if that was back then. In one of the episodes of the Hulk, there is an appearance by Thor. I almost said the Thor. But yeah, for a kid who, I wasn't a massive comic book fanatic, but I had some comic books, and I loved superheroes, and I loved the Super Friends cartoon as a kid, and of course Adam West Batman. So when the Hulk came along and it was a bit more serious, it was like, oh wow, cool, excellent. I also completed my Halloween movie series on whatever you want to say, digital, I guess. I have this on VHS, but I never had the DVD or the Blu-ray, so not a great movie, but I can now get rid of my VHS, which I'm discovering is really hard to get rid of VHS. But yeah, happy to add that. I think I got it for $9.99, and it's in pretty good shape. But I've been looking for this one for a while, so happy to add it to the collection. I may only end up watching it once or twice and moving it on, but I don't think I've seen that movie in a long time. The VHS I got probably about 5 years ago. I don't know if I've ever actually watched that VHS, so I haven't seen that movie in a really long time. I think, is this the one with yeah, this one has Paul no. Oh, it says Paul Stephen Rudd. I guess that was his acting name before he just became Paul Rudd. This also has Donald Pleasance, directed by Joe Chappelle. Yeah, I think this is the one where Michael Myers is like part of a cult or something. Or I really don't remember much about this movie, but yeah. It says the scariest Halloween of them all. I don't believe that. Don't believe the hype. And then the last thing I picked up on DVD, I got at this really cool store, and I can't remember what it's called now, but it's in Halifax, and it's like a 3 or 4 level house that they've turned into like a vintage mansion, which might be the name of it. It's something like that, but it's mostly clothes and records and old toys and old dishes and stuff like that, but there were like little pockets of movies all throughout the house. And so I was like, of course, it was like a what do you call it? Like a treasure hunt. I was digging around in little stacks of movies trying to find something cool. There was tons of VHS, but they were all kind of just common things. But I did find this DVD, and if you've been watching my channel for a long time, you might remember. I feel like I owned this movie before, but it was in a different package, and it wasn't that good, but I couldn't remember. And that other movie I had, I've since gotten rid of, so I can't remember what that movie was. I thought it was this one, but this is from the Midnight Madness series from Image Entertainment from 2011. And this is a movie called Return to Horror High with a young George Clooney from 1987, directed by Bill Froelich. I remember that poster. My friend Scott back in high school days, he had a poster of that on his garage wall, which would be really cool to have. So anyway, I had a movie and I watched it and it was really bad, but I'm quite sure this is not that movie. But if you've been watching my channel for years and years and years and you have a really killer memory, but don't stress over it. I did pay a bit more than I wanted to. This was $10, but I don't see this around very often, and I decided to just pick it up. And if it is the one I have owned and didn't like, I'll just have to resell it, I guess. So that's everything I listened to, watched, and picked up as far as I can remember. That's right, I saw a movie in the theater this past week. Nothing too exciting, but I did take my niece to see the animated movie Hoppers, which I believe is a Pixar movie, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the credits now. we were late getting in, so I didn't see all of the credits, but um, it was kind of cute. It was a bit frantic, as you know. I often complain about kids movies in the modern day that they're too flashy and crazy. Let me just make sure that that's yeah, it is a Pixar movie, directed by Daniel Chong. It's so it's like a, I would put it in the same category as like Good Robot, Wall-E, those kinds of things. Although this one's a little bit more juvenile, but um, it's kind of like one of those environmental themed animated movies. So it's teaching kids a little lesson about like don't hurt the animals and don't blow up their beaver dams and things like that. So it had a nice message, and it was okay. It was okay. It was I took my niece to see Elio last year, and I thought that was awful. This one was much better. It's probably one of the better animated movies we've seen in a while, because I've taken her to see the Garfield one, and we saw the Smurfs with Rihanna in it, and Gabby's Dollhouse, and we saw Kung Fu Panda 4. And so, I take her to see these movies because she likes movies with, that are kids' movies with like lights and music and all that stuff. So I thought this one was, for a Pixar movie, probably one of the better ones I've seen recently. I feel like Pixar kind of dropped the ball a little bit in the last few that I've seen, but yeah, it was all right. So, as you know, it is getting near the end of the show. I'm just going to go quickly through the new releases on physical media that are coming out this coming Tuesday, March 24th. So, first up from Criterion, they are releasing the Martin Scorsese film Killers of the Flower Moon. And this is 4K. I believe you can also get it on Blu-ray. And this stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, Jesse Plemons, and somebody named Tantu Cardinal. Yeah, so Killers of the Flower Moon coming out on 4K and Blu-ray. I have not seen that movie. I don't know a lot about it, but the 1985 version of Red Sonja is coming out on 4K from Arrow, which is a pretty cool movie if you like those 80s sword and sandal kind of movies. I know the newer Red Sonja came out recently, and I heard really not good things about it, but I do want to kind of check that out eventually if it comes to streaming. We have something called Cutter's Way coming out on 4K. Let's see what this is. This is coming out from Radiance Films. This is directed by Ivan Passer, starring Jeff Bridges, John Hurd. Let's see. I guess it's a post-Vietnam kind of thing. So if that's your bag, go check it out. Radiance Films presents Cutter's Way on 4K Blu-ray. We also have A Bridge Too Far coming out on 4K Blu-ray. There's a Scott Pilgrim Takes Off limited series Blu-ray. So I think this is an animated Scott Pilgrim series. I have not seen or really heard anything about it. We have something called Embalmer coming from AGFA from 1996. Uncommon Valor with Gene Hackman from 1983 is coming to 4K. There's a lot of kind of anime looking things here, which I'm probably just going to skip over for now. The 1992 movie Beethoven is coming out on Blu-ray. Dead Kids is coming out on 4K. This is from Powerhouse Films from 1981. Looks like a horror movie. Antonio Margaretti and The Jungles of Doom, his 80s adventure films. Of course, whenever I hear the word Margaretti, I always think of Inglourious Bastards when he's going, "A Margarete." That's what I always think of. Something called Helter Skelter. Let's see what this is from 2020. 12. This is coming out from 88 Films. Looks like an Asian film. There's Survivors coming out on 4K. Also from Powerhouse Films. I don't know what that looks like. Some kind of futuristic thing. Listen to the birds screaming. Let's see what else is coming out. I don't honestly, guys. There's a lot of releases coming out this week, and a lot of stuff I don't really know. Deadwood Park, Bye Bye Brazil, The Dancing Hawk, The Image Revolution, Solvent, Looking for an Angel, The History of Sound, Out Come the Wolves, The Banished, Cat Sick Blues. There's a Walter Matthau movie from 1978 called House Calls, which is probably good. The Good Shepherd is coming out on Blu-ray, or getting reissued on Blu-ray, I guess. Yeah, a lot of stuff I don't know. Oh, the 90s movie with James Spader and Angela Bassett, Supernova, is coming out on Blu-ray from the year 2000. And there's a lot of anime and stuff in between, but that's about it, guys. I guess the main big one is Killers of the Flower Moon and Red Sonja and Bridge Too Far. So those are the big new releases that are coming out on physical media this coming Tuesday. So if any of those appeal to you, go to your nearest retailer of fine films and maybe you can secure yourself a copy. That's it, guys, for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your patience. Thank you to the one person who unsubscribed and to the new person who subscribed, and then to, I guess, maybe the new person unsubscribed. 656, 657. That's a 67. That's all I can get is around that number, so I don't know. I don't want to say I'm getting discouraged doing this channel because I do kind of enjoy it, but it's I'm coming up on my 4th year anniversary of this channel, and it seems to be kind of stagnating a little bit. So like I said, I am going to start a second channel, which is going to be for my music videos and things like that, my creative endeavors, if you will. So I think probably I'm going to be moving in that direction sometime in the next year. But for now, if you enjoy these, give me the thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Leave the comments below any of these movies that I talked about, your favorites or ones you're looking for, or you've seen them and they're awful and I've made a huge mistake. But yeah, that's it for today. I do appreciate your continued viewership. The world is upside down, so be sure to take good care of yourself and your mental health and reach out for help if you need some. There's no shame in that. I've done it before, and I encourage people, if they need help, to find resources in your community and in your medical community. Don't stay silent if you need help, because it's okay. But the world is not okay, so that's, again, why you need to really take care of yourself. But yeah, hopefully the days are going to start getting warmer and more sun. And I'm taking my bike in this coming Friday for its tune-up, so I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, in the weeks after that, it will start to warm up and I'll be able to get out on the road. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate your continued viewership and support. And until next time, you know the drill. I'll potentially see you at the video store, potentially see you at a thrift store, potentially see you out in the street somewhere. But until next time, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.